Because, in US, for example, there's a saying that Americans, they live to work. But, for example, in South America, they work to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
More like work to travel.
Work to travel.
At least that's how I've managed to save money since my first travels, like 11, 12 years ago. I always made sure, because I sure as heck was not going to spend any money on expensive gadgets or expensive clothes. So my only like the sin expense that I had, so to speak, was my travel budget. So I will keep a big fat part of my salary, my earnings, set aside, and then just go traveling.
A huge change kind of in a new generation of people that are coming through. And as I understand it, kind of a lot less people in this country are spending money on alcohol and going to the pub and things.
Right.
They're saving that more for experiences. And I think that's definitely a shift in attitude that a lot of people around the world are having, that they'd rather have amazing experiences than have material goods.
Right. And I think there's just an perhaps a misconception, or perhaps an exaggerated preconceived notion that because I see Igel's pictures from a fancy place, I just happen to assume that she is of higher financial standing. But it's not. That's not necessarily the case, because Vicky, you remember, right? When we went with that group to Malaysia, to Taman Negara, we were freaking destitute students. We were saving every freaking penny we could. So just to share, Igel, with you and your listeners, right? We bought, I believe, a can of tuna and a loaf of bread. And I honestly, Vicky, I may be wrong, but I don't remember buying anything else for our meals, but just like canned tuna and bread. And we were 18, 19, around there. And I kind of stuck to that spirit of not eating. It's not about not eating well, but it's about where do you really want to maximize your dollar. And I follow that principle even up to this day, despite the fact that, I am of much better financial standing than I was when I was a student. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really kind of hit home. It took me a few years to realize. I can't remember what country it was in, definitely somewhere in Southeast Asia. It might have been Malaysia, where I remember people kind of hassling us and saying, oh, you want to spend your money over here, blah, blah, blah. And me as kind of a young 19-year-old went, no, I'm a student, I don't have any money. And they were like, you're a student, you don't have any money. And I was like, and I thought that was a perfectly valid excuse not to be buying their things. I'm like, no,
right.
Student support. But a few years later, it took a while for it to properly sink in, that they're like, you don't have a job, you don't have any money, and yet here you are in this foreign country, not working. You do have money, you really are of a higher financial standing than the majority of people on this planet.
Right.
Well,
I think they want any money.
Yeah, it's for a lot of people, like you guys, also yesterday when we talked about traveling, Vicky, you shared that, and you, Ady, as well, that you really started like from really small budgets as you were students. Actually, in my student life, I didn't travel much because I didn't have the finances to do so. But once I graduated, I started because I was working hard, and then I saved enough to travel. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was staying in good hostels. I would always check the reviews to make sure it was good. I would use public transport. But as I look into my life now, over the past 4 years, my budget is getting lower and lower. Really. For example, my last trip was my first trip when I did hitchhiking, for example. I never did it before. I was sleeping in a tent, for example, and staying in the cheapest hostels for $1. So, Ady, I might correct you on saying that, I'm of better financial standing here. Of course, it's also more about experience as well, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely kind of, obviously I was really fortunate that I left my job, so I had all the time in the world to go and stay and work and to put down and work for 8 months. And then fortunately the days off that I had from my job in Iceland, I could go and explore the country. And obviously I was kind of lucky enough because I was in Reykjavik and kind of making friends and stuff. We could just pick up and go, oh, what are you doing on your days off? Like, let's go to this place or go to that place. Or just like you kind of would do in a normal home country in your kind of career jobs. I'd take a week or two and yeah, just go exploring in the country that I was working and living in at the time.
For full episodes, go to solopacker.com.